say it every time. I genuinely don't. I don't know why I announce it, because there's no way for them to know if I'm going to start now. They'd have to keep messing. Anyway. So if you're all ready, we'll begin with tonight's change story. But gonna give you all a warning. It is a child. Heartbreaking story. Not sure if you're aware of it. I first came across this case from, believe it or not, the Steve Wilkos story, the Steve Wilkos show. Yeah. Do you know what? When I heard Steve Wilkos had a show, obviously he's had it running for years now, but when I first heard about it, I was a bit like, oh, obviously from Jerry Springer, who's the security from there. I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But I believe he went out of his way to he went out of his way for it not to be a Jerry Springer show. Anyway, I happened to come across this episode, and it was just, I was disgusted, absolutely disgusted. Not by the show, but by the episode. And yeah, so that is the case I'm going to do for you tonight. So, okay. Arabella Margaret Parker. She was born on the 20th of September 2016. Okay. Her mum is Samantha Jo Dalkamp, and her dad is Carl Parker. Now, there was a bit of an age gap between the two of them. When Carl, who was 39 at the time, met Samantha, she was only 19. Okay. Now, Carl himself, a little bit of a colourful past, had actually just served 13 years or thereabouts, 13 years for a DUI robbery type thing that went wrong. And he'd actually been sentenced in 1999, so he'd done his 13 years. He was out. Anyway, they met, and he had 2 kids. He did, Carl. So he had late teenager kids when he met Sam, which is crazy because I don't think there was much. I think there was about 2 years between Sam and his next daughter. So there was like 2, she was 2 years older, Sam was. Anyway, who am I? Okay. So this was in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, obviously an American story. There's also another person involved who is Bonnie. Now, this is Sam's mum. Okay, so you're going to hear her a couple of times. But, so we have Sam and Carl. They met in March 2015. It's very quick. Remember me saying there's quite a big age gap. They met in 2015, engaged by April 2015. And then we have little baby Arabella in September 2016. Okay, so there we go. Now, this girl, adorable, absolutely adorable. If you want to go away and have a look at her pictures, she's gorgeous. Really, really cute little girl. She had the nickname of Sweet Pea. She loved being the center of attention, and for the most part, she was. I think, from what I could gather, she was the youngest member of the family by far. She had this older brother and sister. She had lots of aunts and uncles. I think Sam had 3 sisters. I don't know why I'm saying I think. She did. She had 3 sisters. I say it's become a habit now to say I think, when I actually do know she did have 3 sisters. So I don't know why I've said that. And so, big extended family. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, great-grandparents. This girl was idolised. Absolutely idolised. Bless her. So, for the beginning of little Arabella's life, she was just doted on, and just the pictures of her, she just looks such a happy little girl. And She was, but we know that's not this channel, so we know where it's going, don't we? So Carl Loca Plonka, he violated his parole in 2019. Okay, when Arabella is 2. And he's returned straight to prison. Okay. Sam, not wanting to, let the grass grow under her feet, moves on very quickly from Carl. So as soon as he's recalled, would you call it recalled back into prison when you violate your parole? When that happens, she finishes with him very quickly. All right. She doesn't hang about. So they were living at the time in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. That's where they were. So by June 2019, all right, Sam, who at this point now is 23, all right, she meets and she starts going out with a lad called, and I'll say lad because he's 19. Okay, so she's gone from one extreme to the other. This girl, you can hear the kind of venom I've got for this mom, and you're going to find out why very soon. But please don't feel like I'm just being vile. You're gonna see why. So she starts going out with this lad, Jared Burgess, I think his name. I've heard it Burgess and Burgess. I'm gonna say Burgess. He was 19. Like I say, little Arabella was 2 at this point. And in August of 2019, they moved to like a 3-story townhouse. I've seen the pictures of it, looks huge. So rented, that's where they moved. I believe it's rented. It said it is. So I don't know. It looks a very big house though, but that's where they start to live in August. But if we go back to July, now there's a reason I'm saying this. In July, Bonnie, do you remember I mentioned her name? That's Sam's mother, who would be Arabella's nanny, grandmother, however you say. She'd already started to notice bruises on both Arabella and Sam. Right? Now, Bonnie herself also appears on the show. I'll let you know my opinion of her soon. But she had been, from when she started to notice these bruises, she was asking Sam to leave Jared, get out, get Arabella out. So she was doing that. She was kind of trying to do her best. But other family members were noticing bruises on them, on both of them. And they started calling. I've got it down as like social services, but it varies across the states in America. I think this particular state is called DFS, Department of Family, DFCS, Department of Family and Children's Services. I think that's particular state there. And so they've been called by extended family members who've noticed these bruises and stuff. Sam actually was like, I can't leave him. Oh, this girl, you'd need to watch. What they've got online is not the full episode of the show. It's kind of clips. Oh my God. This guy, she's so frustrating. So frustrating. And she's like, I couldn't leave him. I can't leave him because we rely on him financially. This was July. She only met him in June. How much are you financially dependent on this man already? That you're going to allow not only yourself to get hit, but your little 2-year-old daughter. How Not that it doesn't matter, it could be 20 years. I'm just saying, after a month, how dependent are you, really? Just saying, okay? So, in the July, Sam had, because of social services being called, etc., she started phasing out her family. She started distancing herself from them. So we come to August 2019. Like I say, they moved into that townhouse in did I see where it was? I think it's the same area. It was Sunbury, Pennsylvania, but they moved into this property. Family members have started reporting. So Bonnie herself applies for temporary custody of Arabella. And that hearing for her to apply for this was in on September the 5th, 2019. Okay. It's so frustrating. On September the 5th, 2019, she goes to court for this temporary custody and she's denied. She's denied because basically social services, or what they call it, DCFS or whoever it is, but said, you know what, Arabella seems fine. She's okay. And Sam wasn't saying anything. Sam's like, yeah, she's fine. She's really looked after. She's golden. He's the man of my dreams. So I don't know why they didn't question why Bonnie hadn't said, hang on a minute, she's bruised up, my daughter's bruised up, she's fearing for herself, this is why she's lying. Why she didn't say that, I don't know. But the caseworkers basically had no suspicions, but the case was kept open because of the amount of calls that were coming in from all the extended family. Bonnie herself, she goes onto Facebook. Facebook always makes an appearance, doesn't it? She calls him like a child abuser and a wife beater, and she goes in on him on Facebook, and she's trying. I'll say that she tried. But behind the scenes, now, they've seen the odd bruise here and there on both Sam and Arabella, but Sam was keeping Arabella away from the family. So they weren't really seeing what exactly was happening behind closed doors. And Jared was he was becoming really handy behind the scenes. Now, she met this man in June, okay? He'd very early on had begun making them, as in Sam and Arabella's too, making them march up and down the hallway if they hadn't done what they were supposed to do. They hadn't done what he told them. He's 19. He's 19 years old. And march up and down. Do my bidding for me. So Sam swears she couldn't leave the house. They had a shared phone and he wouldn't let her use it. Arabella, by this point, not only had bruises, she had broken bones. So it was going really, really, really badly wrong. We come to October the 6th, 2019. Now, Arabella has had her 3rd birthday. Nothing mentioned about that. Funny. But she would have turned 3 during this time. And the escalation has begun to happen now. Because that's what happens, doesn't it? If this behaviour is allowed and it's gone unchecked, it's going to escalate. That's what happens. They've only been together for 4 months at this point, okay? On this date, like I say, October the 6th, 2019, he starts punching and kicking Arabella. He stomps on her stomach. She's 3, just turned, and she's Diddy. She's tiny little girl, adorable. And then he throws her in the bath, throws her in the bath, and tries to drown her. And you might be thinking, well, was Sam not there? Was she not, it's a big house. Could she not hear? Oh, she was there. Oh, she knew what he'd done. She could explain it word for word. That's how we know what had happened. She was there. And I was shouting at him. I was telling him to stop. Okay. So we get to October the 10th, 2019. Bonnie has had enough. She wants to see her granddaughter. So she phones. She says, I'm coming round. Jared's like, you're not coming round here. So she goes round. She does go round. And he basically says, not just him, Sam as well. No, you can't come in. You can't see her. And slams the door in her face. Okay. She calls the police. Bonnie does. And the police and the DCFS, whoever they are, they say, oh no, she's fine. Arabella's fine. Let's not forget what happened 4 days previous to this. She's fine. She's fine. They didn't check her. They didn't. They dressed her in such a way. There was no bruises. They didn't check her. They didn't try and talk to her. There was nothing. That they just assumed this is a grandmother and a family bickering. And they went on their way. Right? Later on that day. So she's already had what's happened 4 days previous to her, so she would have been quite sore. She would have been in a lot of pain. Arabella would have. She's been stomped on. She's been punched. She's been kicked. She's 3 years old. Arabella is sat there that afternoon after the police have gone, and she's been given dinner. It's been put in front of her. And the excuse was, oh, she'd eaten earlier. But to me, that's, it just doesn't, I don't believe it's that because she'd eaten earlier. That's not my personal opinion. She might have, I don't know. But did she want to eat? Given the circumstances, given what was going on? How could she eat? So Jared doesn't like the fact that Arabella's sat there not eating. And at this point, Sam's in the kitchen and she's washing dishes, apparently. She's always leaving her alone with him, isn't she? She's always around, but she just happens to be out of the room. So Arabella, she wasn't eating. She was picking at her food. And this infuriated him. He was beside himself that this 3-year-old, it wasn't that she threw it on the floor. That there's no excuses being made. I'm just putting it into perspective. She didn't throw her food on the floor. She wasn't throwing some massive tantrum. She wasn't kicking and biting as some toddlers do. No. She was sat there and she was picking at her food. And that's why I thought maybe she just couldn't eat. And Sam hears this shouting going on. She's in the kitchen, she's washing up, she hears this shouting. When she comes into the living room, Arabella's no longer sat down eating. She's actually up against a wall, being held by her throat. by this animal who's screaming in her face while he's got her up against the wall by her neck. Do you want to know what Sam did? Do you want to know what Mum did? She shouted at him. Oh, I shouted at him. And do you know what he did to her? He knocked her and knocked her glasses off her face. And she said, I had to try and find my glasses. I had to try and find them. So while this is going on, he's then got Arabella and just flung her across the floor. Half of her body, the bottom half of her body actually hit like a kid's, it was like a Minnie Mouse, like a Disney chair. But the top half of her body just smashed off the floor. Her skull smashed off the floor. And this actually cracked her skull and obviously damaging her brain. So at that point, at that moment when Sam's managed to, pull her glasses on, I mean, look how long that took, But when she's done that, they notice Arabella's on the floor and she started seizing up. She started having a seizure on the floor. Now you think, okay, this has escalated too far. This has gone too far now. Phone the ambulance. It's America. Phone 911. That's what they're going to do. No, that's not what they did. Do you want to know what Jared did? He phoned his mummy. That's what this 19, because he was still obviously a child. He phoned mummy. Mum, I don't know what to do. I'm just really hurt, baby, and I don't know what to do. Do you want to know what his mum did? Let me tell you about his mum. Christy Lynn Willis, her name is. Now, he contacted his mum at 8:59 p.m. that night. All right? Told her what he'd done, but said because Arabella had the bruises on her from the Sunday night. Do you remember I said, was it the 6th, which was 4 nights before? Because she had the bruises on her from them, he was scared. So he didn't think he could phone the ambulance because they're going to say what I did to her the other day. I nearly drowned her. So his mum, it shows on both of their phones in their different properties, were looking up what they could do when a child's seizing. Then she phones him back. Apparently there was 4 calls back and forth. All this time while this is going on, what I'm telling you, Arabella, this adorable 3-year-old little girl, is still seizing on the floor. She hasn't been moved. They haven't comforted her. They haven't done anything. She's still on the floor while this is going on. Okay? So Jared and his mum, between the phone calls, she goes, don't worry, son, I'm coming over. Sam and Jared then wait for his mum to get there. Still haven't touched Arabella. She's still on the floor, still having these seizures. And she says, right, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to say, I was here. We're going to say, I've been here the whole time. I was folding laundry. That's what I was doing. Sam, you were doing your dishes, and she just started having this seizure. They came up with that. Then, only then, they phoned 911. That's when they did it. And you want to know, it actually, altogether, while this little girl was having these seizures after her skull's been cracked on the floor, 49 minutes altogether went by. His mum lived nearly half an hour away. 49 minutes. before they phoned the ambulance for this child, all because he was concerned about watching his own back. So when the paramedics come in and rush in to see this little girl, they've got 3 adults standing there going, she just started seizing, it's just happened, you know, we didn't know what to do. So of course the paramedics don't know, they've just got this child having a seizure on the floor. That's what they've been told. So they could have took Arabella to a hospital that was 13 minutes away. Because they weren't told what had happened and that it was a head injury, they took her to a hospital that was half an hour away, which was an actual children's hospital. But if they'd have known, they would have got her to the quicker hospital because she needed surgery. But they didn't know. They just thought, she's having a seizure, we need to get her to the children's hospital. So altogether now, this poor child has been going through this for like an hour and a half now. With no one, but not the paramedics' fault at this point. They didn't know. They weren't told. So when they get her to this children's hospital and she's still seizing, they don't know, they give her a CT scan. And that's when they see the damage that's been done to this child's head, and they rush her into surgery. In surgery, they have to remove that part of her skull. They have to remove part of her brain because part of her brain was already dying because it had been cracked. You know, when it swells, it comes out of the skull. Her brain was already dying. And they said, why wasn't we told? They were like, what can we do for this child? And as they're treating her for this head injury, they start to notice, they start to see bruises head to toe on this child. That's when they started to notice the damage that was done to this 3-year-old little girl. I'll tell you, she was put on life support. She had a 10% chance when she came out of surgery. She only had a 10% chance of living. And I'll tell you the injuries to her, okay? She had 44 different bruises, head to toe. She had 3 broken ribs on her left side. She had 8 broken ribs on her right side. She had internal bleeding in her abdomen. We think that was from the stomping on her stomach 4 days beforehand, which means that internal bleeding, she'd been bleeding for 4 days. So do you remember when I said she wasn't eating, she was picking? Well, her mum says, oh, it's because she'd eaten earlier on. It hasn't been said, but it says to me that that's what the problem was. She had a fractured collarbone, and she was bleeding in a genital area. It doesn't say she was abused in that way, but from kicking her, I don't know. But she was bleeding in her genital area. Like I say, they only gave her a 10% chance of living at that point. Remember I says I'd seen the Steve Wilkos episode? While her child was in intensive care with 10% chance of living, that's when she goes on Steve Wilkos. That's when she chose to go on the Steve Wilkos show. She was paid £250 to appear on there as well, by the way. I think her mum got £200 as well. Anyone else didn't, because there was other people who appeared as well. But her and her mum got paid for it. Just a little extra. Steve Wilkos tears her a new one. I'll just say that. But she goes on there because she wants Steve to do a polygraph test for her to prove that she didn't do any of that damage. Why is that the forefront of your mind? Why is that where you're going with this? Do you know, I know the case and I'm gobsmacked. It's like, why would that be your thought process? Let me go and cover my back. Let me just go and cover my back and make sure everyone knows it weren't me. Who cares? At this moment, who cares which one of you it was? One of you did it, and one of you allowed it. Sorry, I'm sorry. Got a little bit emotional there. So she does this polygraph. All right. Do you remember I said that obviously Arabella's dad, Carl, who's in prison for a previous crime, he had 2 kids, remember me saying? So his daughter, Amanda, who would be Arabella's half-sister, she appeared on the show as well. And she's really angry. You know, my dad's devastated. He can't be there with his daughter. And I'm like, okay. But she's very upset, of course. Everyone's devastated. One of Samantha's sisters appear on the show as well. And she's like, I saw you. We find out that she'd met up with Sam without him around. So why couldn't she have got help then? And that was a whole story fell to bits on the show. I think she tried to get sympathy. And oh my God, the voice. I don't know what to do. It's all very self-serving, very pity me kind of attitude. Didn't wash with anyone. And yeah, the polygraph turned around that yes, she didn't hit a child. She didn't. No, she didn't. Congratulations for the girl at the back. Just ridiculous. And she had the same, obviously on the show, it was the same response. But the show actually didn't air for a couple of months after filming. But the police got hold of the pre-recording of it. And they watched it. Now, don't forget, she'd and him, the 3 of them had been like, oh my God, it's a seizure. Don't know what happened. We're all witnesses together. And then she goes on the show and basically blows the whole thing up. So the police watch it. I genuinely don't know what she was thinking. She does not seem the brightest girl out there anyway. But police are like, have all 3 of them straight in there and then. The police knew there was more to it, but this was within days. So when they seen that, they were like, right, okay, you're banged to right, it's done. So on the 25th of October 2019, Samantha is arrested for child endangerment. Jared is arrested for child abuse. The mom, what was her name now? Didn't even think to keep her name in my head. Christy, she's brought in for basically fraud. They're questioning and everything else. But it's meant that Samantha no longer gets to go to the hospital to see Arabella, who is still on life support. This child is still fighting for her life. But the doctors have come forward now and says because of the damage that had been done to her little brain, that if she does come through it, she'll be in a wheelchair, be feeding tube, you know, she'll never walk, she'll never talk. The damage done to this child is just heartbreaking. Then Mandy which is Samantha's sister, and her husband, Tyrone. So Mandy Kegler, Tyrone Kegler. They become emergency guardians of Arabella. And then on November the 13th, 2019, they're actually made legal guardians of her. And they spent every day up at that hospital. This is her aunt. This isn't her mum. This is her aunt and her uncle. And they're up there every day just praying for this child to be able to pull through. Like I say, it said that Carl himself was devastated, her dad. But on the 20th of November 2019, Arabella is taken off life support, right? And the doctor said, look, we're going to see how she gets on her own. And she lived for 48 hours on her own. 48 hours she fought for. But it was just too much. It was just too much for her. And on the 22nd of November 2019, little Arabella Margaret Parker passed away. She'd actually spent, at that point, 44 days in the hospital. Just heartbreaking. The doctors actually said that if she'd have been taken to hospital when it first happened and they had just cared about someone other than saving their own skin, they haven't said she would have lived, but they said she might have. She might have been able to pull through, because kids can, they can pull through from seizures. You know, that they can, but yeah, they just left it far too long, and she couldn't fight it. Such a shame. So Sam and Jared obviously now are charged with homicide, murder. It's not murder, is it? I don't think it's manslaughter, but it's called homicide. We come up to April the 15th, 2021. Let's not forget Nanny. Let's not forget Christy. Well, wasn't Nanny, was she? Who tried to protect her baby boy. She was actually sentenced to 17 months. That one was. That one for... Do you know what? I can't find the note. What is the word? What's the word when you are... when perverting the course of justice. Oh God, I couldn't think of it in my head then. She received 17 months. Not enough if you ask me. But at least, let's face it, if it was here, she probably wouldn't have got any time at all. In April 2022, Sam, Mum of the Year, was found guilty. She was sentenced from between 12 to 25 years. That's what she's been given. So it'd be 12 years before she can even apply for parole, if she even gets there. And you want to know what she said? You want to know what her ending comment was? But I'm a victim too. I'm not even exaggerating. That's how she spoke. Just embarrassing. Jared, in January 2022, so before Sam, he was sentenced to 24 to 50 years. Apparently it was the longest that could be given under those charges, under the circumstances. I don't know, I just feel like it should have been life, but 50 years, it'll still be 69, 70. That's if they get out. There's nothing to say. I've got a real feeling we'll be seeing Mum again. I've got a real feeling she will be out again. I don't know about Jared though. Hopefully not. Do you know what? The lot of them should have had the book thrown at them, but they're the sentences they got. Then there became another problem, as if that wasn't, that was the end. Obviously before that that date. But with regards to little Arabella's funeral, her dad wanted her to have a burial. Her aunts on her mum's side wanted her to be cremated. Their point was there was no way she could have had an open casket given the damage that had been done to her. The court, given the fact that she'd been given parental responsibility, the Aunt Mandy, she was given the final decision and they had Arabella cremated, and she was shared amongst the family. So they all had a bit of their little sweet pea. As a side note, do you remember the sister I mentioned? So it would be Arabella's half sister. It was Carl's daughter, the older daughter. There's only 2 years between her and Sam. Do you remember I mentioned her? Now she was on the Steve Wilkos show. Quite rightly defend her sister, discussed what had happened, says that it was Sam's fault. She hadn't protected her daughter. You know, everything you would imagine anyone with any common sense would say to this woman. Well, found out